So Richard, you're telling me that today's date, the 14th of June 2023, I'm here at the palatial home of Major Francis Richards and his wife Daphne, and he's showing me a chair that was made at Camp Londonderry in the 1970s.
Yep.
That is before independence.
Original.
That is almost 50 years ago, 40 some years ago. Original. My goodness. Yes. So did you make it, or
No.
It was made by one of the craft.
Yeah, one of the
carpentry students.
Yeah, one of the students. I think I had two. I've been maybe.
So now 40. Let me ask you this question: so 44 years after independence, when you look at this chair and its longevity, what do you think is the value of vocational education, like carpentry, masonry, craft work, for young people today in the development process?
I mean, this product. I think when it was made, it was to showcase, like I said, the craftsmanship of the students at Londonderry at the time, and it has stood the test of time, for one. It actually testifies to the quality of the wood, for one. The design that would have been designed by our very own Major Johnson. Major
Lyndon Earl Johnson,
yeah.
Commandant of the Cadet Corps, who was also director of the original youth camp at Londonderry.
And the original youth camp, that's critical, the original youth camp. Because it was not just the Dominica product, a Dominica-centric situation. Original is important. And it is well done, it's still sturdy. I had another one, Maria must have taken the other one.
Yes.
But I just had to preserve this, and maybe that's the only
Londonderry youth camp product.
The only one of its kind now from that time, still visible, still strong.
Yes.
Still strong.
And Major, you're talking about the original youth camp at Londonderry, which I think spanned from 1969 to about 1977 thereabouts.
Yeah. Yes.
So pretty much up to the independence year, which is 1978.
Yeah, I mean, as cadets, it was almost mandatory for us to be part of the activities during summer camps and everything else, and that's where we made some really good friends and
friendships that endure to this day.
Oh yes, very much so.
Like with people like Cresswell Lawrence.
Oh yes. Major.
Sergeant Major Cresswell Lawrence.
Yeah, man.
Dr. Sam Christian,
Dinsdale Lawrence, Coffee. I tried to go back in time.
Alan Paul.
I'm not as good as you, Gabriel, in terms of memory, to the recall of the guys. But I mean, you can almost see them. You know, when you meet them, you know where you saw them first.
Yes, Paul Joseph.
Oh yeah. All the old
Emmanuel Kazimi,
cadets,
Anthony Richards.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Smiley Stewart. No, not Smiley. Funny face.
Funny, yeah. Well, one of
the late great bandsman and bass drummer Neverson Seja. Melictus Pascal. Mellow on the side drum.
Yeah, I mean we had some iconic guys coming out of that whole stuff. Guys you can never forget.
Yes,
because
indeed.
of their personality and all that, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, they made some serious. But the industry part of it, Gabriel, is something that we lost, and we need to recapture that. What is the value again, Major, of that vocational education, that craftsmanship for young Dominicans today? Well, the reality of life is that not all of us are all academically inclined, and it's proven to be so over and over and over. So those persons who are not academically inclined need to find a way to shine, and that's one of the things that in my time and under my watch as the commandant of the Corps, I was trying to get to blossom, because initially, Gabriel, that thought never really came through early. It's towards the end of my time that sort of vision came to bear, in that I began to think, okay, the core should not only be all about pomp and circumstance.
Yes.
So you're all dressed up and you're marching down there, and we play, the band is playing, and everybody's carrying a rifle, and we're out there. But then what?
Yes.
When you put that away, then what?
Yes.
And I began to get into the area of
vocational education.
Vocational education.
Yes.
And myself, and again, Gabriel, what I think is critical is that some of us don't know our potential until maybe later in life. Or on the other hand, I'm saying that in every family, I want to believe, if you trace your lineage through the family, somebody, I think, in the family has something of unique benefit.
Yes.
And it may be craftsmanship, it may be music, it may be something in there that someone in the line,
yes,
will blossom in time.
Yes, indeed.
Right? And for me personally, my family, we have in our family, we have woodworking, we have music, we have dance.
Yes.
What else we have? We have agriculture. We have well, my father, he's 40, was
stick a pin in that, Major. I remember I was a lawyer maybe about 2 years, and I got a call one morning at about 10 a.m. From someone from Illinois who was atop a combine harvester harvesting wheat. And that was one Francis Richards, who was then attending Wabash College in Illinois, where you got your first degree in agriculture. And I want the listening audience, those who will listen to this tape, to know that he later went on to distinguish himself at Cranfield University in the United Kingdom, where he did a Master's of Science in Agriculture. So you know, and Francis Richards then was an employee of the Ministry of Agriculture, the government of Dominica, working at the gardens, and got involved in the Essential Oils project, that is extracting oil from the patchouli plant. And the patchouli plant is a perfumed plant, or a plant that gives off a perfumed oil when it's, of course, grounded. And that this same Francis Richards, who I'm talking to, the former commandant of the Cadet Corps, also created a factory process, or a mill, for the grounding of the plant and the distillation. Major, where did you learn that kind of sense of where did you acquire the industrial arts to do that kind of work?
Well, the history of that is quite interesting, in that as commandant of the Corps, when Hurricane David struck in '79, I was then working as a customs officer at customs here at Woodbridge Bay in and when that time came, somebody said, well, why don't we try to find the cadets to help us clear roads, or whatever it is that they can do, because they have they're supposed to have that sense of discipline and organization. Somebody said, well, so yeah, okay, so what about, so this guy Richards, why don't we go find him? And at the time, Gabriel, it just so happens that the chief agricultural officer at the time, Errol Harris, a former cadet.
Yes. At the grammar school, the Dominica Grammar School.
Grammar School.
Which, by the way, the Dominica Grammar School is the legacy school of the Cadet Corps, started there in 1910.
Right, indeed. So he immediately understood the potential of that group of persons, because by the time we had scouts, we had cadets, we had guides, we had brownies. But as an organized, disciplined force, the cadets, for him, was the most natural thing. So they came to find me at the customs, Gabriel, and Mr. Harris said to Mr. Andre, who was then the...
That's the father of Dr. Irvin Andre, the Canadian judge and author.
Indeed, yes. Indeed. Came to find, asked Mr. Andre, well, is there any way that we can loan Mr. Richards to help us organize and maybe do some stuff for us, from the Ministry of Agriculture standpoint, the program. Sadri said, of course, because I don't know whether himself was ever a cadet, or he may have been
he could have been, because I'll tell you why. In the days that Andrew went to grammar school before the war or during the war, every grammar school student had to be a cadet. You know
Right.
who I learned that from?
Right.
No less a person than H.L. Christian, my uncle,
Indeed.
who was at the grammar school. He said every grammar school student in the
Right.
1930s, when he was there,
Right.
had to be a cadet.
Right.
So Andrew would have been around that time.
Right. So he had no problem. He says, okay, fine. Gabriel, I left customs, got into Mr. Agriculture. Mr. Harry says, Mr. Richards, follow me. When I arrived there, I didn't know what I was going to be doing at all. But by then, they had received some assistance, foreign assistance for material items to assist in the clearing post Hurricane David, right? And then, so he says, follow me. I followed Mr. Harris down a little path to a building. Opened the door, and in there, Gabriel, is a mountain of chainsaws, different sizes. Chainsaws inside of it. That's the first time I was exposed to chainsaws, because I had no business with chainsaws prior to that.
Yes.
And
of course, after Hurricane David, there were a lot of fallen trees all over the country.
Oh yeah, all over the place. And here we had our own. I mean, I got to know a venerable Casimir. Oh man, Kazo in the guys was a fixture.
Yes.
Everybody knew Kazo, and everybody.
No, Major, you know we're going to continue this, so I don't want to go into too much detail. Let me just ask you this. Bottom line is, you became the commandant of the detachment of chainsaw engineers.
Well, you just put it that way. I mean, and we put down a force that was that the forestry department had to respect. It was a serious. I mean, there was no project, trees hanging over people's homes and stuff. That we developed that skill, Gabriel, and everybody knew that.
So you traveled the highways and byways of Dominica.
Yes, oh yes. And then as
cutting trees.
Yes, and as a result of that, Gabriel, the extension of that was that one of our better known mechanics, right? Well, first of all, two of them actually ended up being top mechanics at the Botanical Gardens for one, and another one, Mickey. Everybody knows Mickey. He does spray jobs and
auto body work.
Auto body work. Mickey came out of the chainsaw group.
The chainsaw detachment.
You know, and you know what happened? Each cadet each person was issued their saw. We had around two or three home light 750 36-inch bar, Gabriel. Right, 2 persons to carry that. That's how heavy it was. Everybody wanted to get hold of Major's saw, because my saw at the time was the fastest, and it cut the best, and everybody. So we had this competition.
So who taught you all to use the saws, knowing that you had not had that experience?
It just evolved. I mean, out of the initial intro from the guys who had forestry department. You do this, you do that, you do that. After that, we want our own.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else to pamper us, and we just blossom, Gabriel.
Yes, and that's how you joined the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, indeed, and I never looked back after that.
And you were there for how many years?
Well, maybe 10 years or something like that.
Yes,
around there.
10 years. And Major, we'll go into it a little more detail, things like the cadet corps and so on, but it all started with this chair.
Yep.
And what this chair meant, or means to us rather, in that it is the maybe last sort of item remaining from the glory days, right, of the Dominica, of the original youth camp at Londonderry, which was located between the villages of Wesley and Margaret on the northeastern coast of Dominica, not far from the Atlantic Ocean. And this needs to be noted because today, 44 plus years after independence, we do not have, 45 years actually, original youth camp. Is that correct?
That's right.
And as a result of that, in conclusion, would you be making a call for the revival of such an entity in way of vocational education for young people who are in many respects distracted and engaged in idle pursuits?
I mean, there's been many such calls, Gabriel. Every time people, we come across different junctures in the development of the island, with those persons who either knew of youth camp or actual participants at youth camp always reflect on why do we not have, we should have had, and that kind of stuff. I don't know why Dominica was picked as being the headquarters for the region. We're talking about St. Lucia, who's that now? Antigua, to the other countries. For the project. But having said that, Gabriel, strange enough, we have not had similar revivals in the other countries that were participants of the project either, you know, Gabriel.
Okay.
So
well, you know, I think it was the visionary outlook of people like Edward Oliver Liblad and Premier, and people like H.L. Christian, and Minister of Education, because that fell under his watch. But I'm going to ask you to hold the camera so I can say a few words myself, because during COVID, our illustrious commandant sent me a box, Major Johnson, and within that box was a collection. There were several items. Dominica Defense Force badge. He was the commandant of the Dominica Defense Force and the Dominica Cadet Corps, and items such as a long playing record, LP record of the Londonderry Youth Harmonites.
Yeah, still Harmonites.
Still orchestra, still band.
I still remember that.
And I did an essay for Dominica News Online, and that essay was well received, because what it did was it encapsulated within its body the history of the youth camp, the story of Major Johnson, who was a phenomenal and inspirational leader for us. And so we think it's very worthy for us to recall those events for persons who will come long after us, that we establish the record of what was done. And our relationship, you know, started, you know, a few years before the first youth camp. Maybe the first youth camp for us was about 73, 74, but our relationship started in 72. Well, in 70 when we moved from Roseau to Goodwill, but in 72 when I started at grammar school, and you were my first rifle instructor. You instructed me as a cadet, a young cadet, a recruit, in the intricacies of the Lee Enfield 303 rifle. You know, the butt plate,
it was a bolt action.
The bolt action. You remove the bolt, and you were beneath the hostel at the grammar school, being instructed on a warm Thursday afternoon. Raids were Thursday afternoon.
How to clean the barrel?
1,500 hours.
1,500 hours.
You know, and so I was in infantry. That's all we had was infantry at that time. Mark reading, hiking, and then the band started in 74. And you were a drum major, and I was a bugler, and that was the most, you know, we became the legendary Dominica Cadet Corps band. And when we would march through the streets of Roseau, you know, we were, you know, children would flood, and adults even would flood after us, you know, would crowd us, and you know, those were heady days. And I trust that we can see a revival of that spirit of youth leadership, and not only in the cadet program, but in Boy Scouts, Girl Guides, Brownies, 4-H Club, those kinds of organizations which really help build the nation. And also the revival of the youth camp, so we can have young people not being gangs and involved in, you know, criminal activity, drugs and so on, but get to some place where they can do something for themselves in way of the industrial arts, you know, welding, electrical engineering, carpentry, masonry, and the sort of craftsmanship in carpentry that really is exemplified by this piece of work.
Yep.
After almost 50 years.
It withstood Maria.
Withstood Hurricane David.
And David. Maria.
You know, and all the other storms in
and
between.
still looks
sturdy.
All has to be done, Gabriel, is
some varnish.
A little bit of sanding, yes, and a coat of varnish, and we're back in business.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So here on a beautiful morning, we're here to pay tribute to my aunt, Pastor Auntie Floss, on the 16th. But I thought it worthwhile to speak to you when you told me about this last night, that we speak about this piece of this product, you know, which was made by young hands. The folks who made that are now in their 60s.
Oh man,
maybe not, if not 70s. Major, thank you very much, sir.
All right, cool.
Thank you.